Hey guys, what up? Total Control 871. I wasn't really planning on doing a video tonight. When I came across this, because I'm always coming across videos and I'm always saying, "Oh my God, I want this to be in the next episode. I want this and this and this." And I just got finished watching this, like, I don't know, 5 minutes ago, and I'm like, I have to do a video on this right now. Um, is this guy, I think he might be controlled opposition. His name is Steve. Oh, look, that's horrible. That's horrible. His name is Steve Hassan. And I truly I want to know, is he controlled opposition? And is he trolling CNN? I'm going to let it's a 6-minute video. I'm going to let the first minute and a half play. Okay. Now, the premise here is that it's as we see here, op-ed anti-vaxxers use the same tactics as cult to attract followers. Now, when I saw that title to the video, that in and of itself perked my ears right up, for the simple reason everybody knows it's the COVID cult. That is the cult. And you're about to hear why, because at the 1 minute 30 mark, Boris here, our anchor, Boris starts to squirm in his chair, because I think as the doctor starts rattling off, is he a doctor? I think he is. As the doctor here starts rattling off his hallmarks of what constitutes a cult. What are the hallmarks of a cult? As God is my witness, it just really starts to sound like controlled opposition, like Steve here is trolling Boris. I think Steve is trolling Boris. I think he's trolling CNN. Let's just give a listen, okay? Because it's funny. Let's give a listen. Oh, hold on. I had the volume down. Let's see, where's my volume? There we go. Let's give a listen.
Vaccine hesitancy still remains a major stumbling block, one that's been fueled by a flood of misinformation from anti-vax groups. Our next guest wrote an op-ed for CNN.com titled, quote, "Anti-vaxxers are using the same tactics as cults do to attract followers on social media." In it, he writes, quote, "In 1974, I was recruited into a cult. Thankfully, after 2.5 years, I was deprogrammed and realized my mind had been hacked. Looking back, though, I see that the fear tactics that were used to recruit and keep me in the cult are the same ones that leaders of the anti-vaccination ideology are using today to attract and retain followers via social media and other outlets." Joining us now is Stephen Hassan. He's a licensed mental health professional and an expert on cults, obviously. Stephen, we're grateful that you are with us this morning. We appreciate your expertise. Help us understand how the tactics of a cult overlap with the anti-vax community.
So there are several components of a mind control authoritarian movement or cult, and in particular, there are 2 points I want to make. One is information control, which is lying, outright lying, withholding vital information or distorting it intentionally. And then the second point is part of the BITE model, the behavior, information, thought, and emotional control model that I've developed, is the deliberate installation of phobias or irrational fears to short-circuit people's critical thinking and analytic minds to be so afraid that they're misjudging the danger that people are in. So
Did you see the way Boris starts to wrinkle his brow? Boris literally, I mean, I'm telling you, pay attention to his face and how he kind of starts squirming in his chair. I don't want the video to get I don't want the video to get too long, but I really just want to take it back. This is hysterical. Yeah, people who have been hacked by a cult already, that already lets you know. See, in case you ever wonder, how can people fall into a cult? I don't want to get too deep into too esoteric, but it's almost like it's preordained, or should I say predisposition. Maybe that's more like how some people are left-handed, some people are right-handed. Predisposition. There are people out there who are predisposed to falling in with cults. A cult leader, okay, they fully understand that they're never going to be able to trick everybody. So, when you go, and people say, oh, this guy, he would have never ever tricked me. He would have never ever suckered me. There's a pretty good chance that you're probably right. These cult leaders, they're very, very quick to cut their losses. It is like how one might say that it's a cousin to pedophilia, how we hear about pedophiles having a type of sixth sense as to which children in the bunch can be groomed, can be feared into silence. They have a sixth sense. Same thing with our cult leaders. They know who can be mind fucked into suspending their disbelief to such an outrageous level where things like, the virus isn't isolated. There's, because the Steve Hassan here, he goes to rattle off a few examples. I think he uses one about a lion. Okay, we can run with that metaphor with the lion. But I just want you to pay attention to Boris as Steve starts rattling off his checkpoints of what constitutes a cult. Pay very close attention to Boris, his face. He's like, wait a minute, that's what we're doing. I can only imagine how many team meetings Boris and so many others in corporate media, both CNN, CBS, NBC, all of it, they sit in their team meetings to craft their language. We're going to talk about it this way and not that way. Okay? And of course, I wish to God I could, I'm thinking about BitChute right now. God bless BitChute, but if I'm being absolutely honest with you, yeah, sometimes it can be a bit of a menagerie. It is a menagerie. There are a lot of really whacked out people who are putting out content on BitChute and other free speech platforms. So yes, you are going to have to be up to snuff on your critical thinking skills. And of course, the weak-minded, when they do come over to, BitChute. Anyway, yes, please pay close attention to Boris's face as Steve rattles off what is a cult. It's so hysterical.
Me and the cult are the same ones that leaders of the anti-vaccination ideology are using today to attract and retain followers via social media and other outlets. Joining us now is Stephen Hassan. He's a licensed mental health professional and an expert on cults, obviously.
So, check out Boris's face. He's very, very welcoming. He's welcoming his guests. And then let's just listen to our guests. I guess you can really tell. I want to get back on my omeprazole, but I don't know. All right. I'm like, look at Boris's face. It's very calm, cool, relaxed, jovial, and let's listen.
Stephen, we're grateful that you are with us this morning. We appreciate your expertise. Help us understand how the tactics of a cult overlap with the anti-vax community.
So there are several components of a mind control authoritarian movement or cult. And in particular, there are 2 points I want to make. One is information control, which is lying, outright lying, withholding vital information or distorting it intentionally. And then the second point is part of the BITE model,
He's squirming.
behavior, information, thought, and emotional control model that I've developed, is the
And there it is. It's like thought, emotional control model. Right now, Boris is thinking to himself, is this guy, is he trolling us right now? Did the producers not vet this guy correctly? Because, am I going to have to go on the defensive here? That's probably what Boris is thinking at that moment. Am I going to have to go on the defensive here? Is this guy going to flip the script on me? And use, I'm wondering, is he using his experience in a cult to dog whistle and troll CNN? I really want to know.
deliberate installation of phobias or irrational fears to short-circuit people's critical thinking and analytic minds to be so afraid that they're misjudging the danger that people are in. So what I want to tell the public is that fear is good if there's real danger. We need to be able to react and get away from anything that's really, truly dangerous, like the COVID-19 pandemic. And a phobia is where you believe something's dangerous, but there's very little risk of any danger. And the way to tell the difference is we need to look at facts. We need to analyze data to assess, oh, I'm in the Africa savannah, there's a lion, my life may be over, versus I'm sitting in my living room watching a movie of a lion attacking, and I'm here safe in my living room.
So Boris has kind of got a side smirk, like, okay, I think I can work with this. Boris is like, okay, I guess this isn't going to go south. For a moment there, Boris was worried, was this interview going to go south with a control opposition agent? Honestly, with everything this guy just said, Steve just said, either he's dog whistling, controlled opposition, or I don't know, maybe he's just actually that stupid that he doesn't understand that everything that he's saying applies to corporate media and not us independent journalists. Okay? Everything. All right? If you think I am joking, watch. Now, he just said what? They want to control information. That they want to, everything he said about controlling information. Okay, let's put that to the test, shall we? Okay, here is to a video about California being split over broadening vaccine mandates with children. This is my reply after my original reply was refuted, even after I tried reworking it many different times. So I eventually went with this reply, this little note that I left for Susan. You know, Susan equals zero compliance, although if I'm being honest, even if they weren't censoring me, I'm not taking that shit. The comment, the comment count. Yes, in case, have you guys ever saw that? The comment count on a video will have, you know, I've seen like 100, and when you open up the comments, it's only like 3 or 4 comments that are there. You know, comment count gets higher and higher, but only a small fraction appear. Saying the scam is a lie is okay by their algorithm, but going into details, specifically explaining how the scam works, will get your comment deleted. You should ask yourself why Silicon Valley is fighting so hard to maintain this level of censorship, if what we're saying is really crazy and unbelievable. But then again, how many times throughout this entire scam have we so-called conspiracy theorists been proven right? Now you might be wondering, what was my original comment? Okay, here it is. I just posted it. Okay, here's how because the whole video is just perpetrating pandemic of the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated are the ones that are dying. It's all about the unvaccinated and how they're falling victim, okay? But I go to tell them the intimate details as to how these hospitals are quantifying this data. See, this is stuff that they don't want you to know about. I say, okay, here's how their unvaxxed death surge scam works. When you go to the hospital, if you're stupid enough to actually answer the question if you're injected or not, the next thing they will ask you is what was the schedule of those injections. The reason why they ask you this is to manipulate the data. If you get COVID after you've had your injections and it hasn't been 2 weeks, okay, 2 weeks after your last injection, then you are classified as being uninjected. Okay? So if it hasn't been 2 weeks after your last and you catch the COVID, number one, they're saying that it's, you're not fully injected. You're not fully what they would call vaccinated. Okay? But if you get sick after your injections, they refuse to classify this as a vaccine injury, kind of like how my shingles are a vaccine injury. I've never had the chicken pox. I did get the vaccine for it, and here it is 35 years later, the side effects of that vaccine coming to fruition. Rest assured, I was stressed into oblivion, but that's another story. But nevertheless, it is a vaccine injury because I've never had the chicken pox. But if you get sick after your injections, they refuse to classify it as a vaccine injury and classify it instead as a breakthrough infection. Oh, okay. This is how they've been getting away with saying this. I should have said how, I said who. That's a typo. This is how they've been getting away with saying pandemic of the unvaccinated. And I think I did there's another typo with unvaccinated. Oh, well, like I said, as you can see, refresh our page, bada boom, bada bing, and it is gone, okay? So, how's that go again, Steve? They want to control the information. Steve, the only people controlling the information are people like Boris that work for CNN. There's your control agent. You're talking to your control agent. Okay? The independent journalists, we just point out the facts as they are. Okay? Let's keep listening to Steve here.
I shouldn't react like that. And people need to understand to control their minds. Otherwise, other people will control it for them.
But in a world where you have the opportunity to choose the information that you consume, and often it's misinformation that you consume, especially on social media, how would you approach someone who's gone down that rabbit hole, especially a loved one? It makes it frustrating to try to convince people that you care about that they should get vaccinated.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the keys is when I was in the moon cult, I didn't believe I was in a cult. I didn't believe I was brainwashed or mind controlled. I believed the word.
You mean like how you are right now, Steve? You don't realize you're in a cult. You're in a COVID cult. Like I say, these people have a predisposition for falling into cults.
Was controlled by Satan. And so I was indoctrinated to do thought stopping. I had these phobias put in my mind. And one of the things I put in the op-ed piece was I was deliberately taken to see the Exorcist movie in 1974 along with hundreds of other Moonies. And then Sun Myung Moon, the cult leader who claimed to be the Messiah and 10 times greater than Jesus, said God made this movie. And this movie was a prophecy of what would happen if you left the church.
Can I just point out something? This man is talking about having gone to see something that his cult leader decided to use as propaganda. Can I please point out the never-ending fear porn meter as you watch this CNN? Never-ending fear porn. Okay? Just like he was taken to see The Exorcist to have the living daylights scared out of him. Another thing that I want to touch on was his analogy of being in the African Sahara. There's a lion right there. Okay, Steve. Well, let's look at it like this. You say that if you're there in the Africa plains and there's a lion, and should you be afraid of that? Well, yeah, you should be afraid of that. And you should take the correct actions to get yourself out of harm's way. But if we're going to be, utilizing your metaphor here and applying it to what is actually happening, okay? To what is actually happening, well, what about this? What about the lion in the Met Gala, Steve? Steve, can you explain to us why the lion has no teeth in the Met Gala? And before you say that everybody here has their experimental injection, well, then I would like to point out what, quite frankly, so many have pointed out. If that's the truth, then why were the hired slaves forced to suffocate? Huh? I thought the lion didn't have any teeth here. Huh? Yeah? No? Huh? Okay. How come the lion only wants to pounce and prey on certain people? How come the lion will not tear to shreds all of the extravagant celebrities as they sachet their bullshit attire? Okay? I find it interesting. Google isn't really showing. Oh, there she is. There she is. With her tax the rich. So why is it that the lion doesn't want to attack these people, Steve, but they're going to attack the people who work for their wage 1 hour at the time? Why, Steve? Can you give us some sort of rationale? Are you saying that I'm in a cult for wanting that to be rationalized to be to be explained to me in a rational fashion. Okay? So because I don't just simply accept it as being the way it is, and because I want detailed scientific explanations as to why the lion is going to pounce on our hired people back here working for their wage, but they're not going to pounce on our wealthy elite. Why? I'm trying to figure this out. Can you help me with that, Steve? I don't know. Maybe Steve can clue us in with a little bit more of what he has for us. What do you say, Steve?
So I was so afraid of evil spirits. Before the cult, I didn't believe in Satan. I'm Jewish. But they had indoctrinated me so much with fear that I couldn't imagine ever questioning Moon or leaving the cult. And what's happening now, as I see, are people are in a cult where they are so programmed to dismiss any critics, any former members. For example, there's a great book I want to tell your listeners about, The Doctor Who Fooled the World. It's all about Andrew Wakefield, who started this anti-vax autism nonsense. It's been thoroughly debunked in this book. And what I'd love to see is more mental health professionals who are experts on phobias teaching people how to do an intervention, basically, where people are taught how to control their minds. So if I have a second, I'll just say, if you have an elevator phobia, you can't imagine riding safely and comfortably in an elevator. All you can do is imagine plummeting to your death or being trapped for eternity. And teaching people, hey, modern elevators have emergency brakes, and you have a phone. You'll never get stuck for eternity.
I honestly want to know if he's dog whistling here for natural immunity. Elevators have brakes. We have an immune system. Hundreds of millions test positive for what they're calling a pandemic, yet never needed medical intervention, as evidenced by the now emerging story, basically Tamiflu 2.0. Okay, have you heard about it? What is it? Merck is the maker. Okay, it's Tamiflu 2.0. Okay, that's all the hell it is. But frankly, didn't I bring you this story several months ago about how over-the-counter medications were about to get repurposed? Yeah, I know. You know, whether it's over-the-counter medications or even if it is a prescription, like my antivirals that I just completed. By the way, my shingles are much better, in case anybody wanted to know. Yeah, so I took my antivirals for a week, which is pretty much what they're saying with Merck's antiviral pills. Take them for 5 days, and you should be good to go. I'm seriously saying this guy, he's either dog whistling or he's just that stupid. You be the judge.
The worst that will happen is you'll pee on yourself. And then there's a systematic way to teach people to visualize riding in an elevator, then systematic desensitization techniques in vivo, meaning doing it, to get over the fear. And what I'm seeing, is that people can talk to their loved ones, not trying to persuade them with facts and attacking their beliefs, but motivational interviewing, asking them about their values.
Motivational interviewing. He says don't attack them with facts because you don't have any. This man would not last two minutes in a back and forth debate with me, trying to convince me to take an experimental injection. To take an injection that has not been tested, hasn't gone through the trials, okay? To just simply be a good sport, put my body on the line. I will be the trial. I will be the experimental guinea pig. Okay? To ignore all the cases of vaccine injury that we've heard about, to ignore it / and or regard it as conspiracy theory. It's not actually happening. And hey, don't get me wrong, I do acknowledge there are crisis actors on both sides of this debate. There are crisis actors in injection clinics. After they get their experimental injection, they fall out on the floor. They fall out on the floor. How many are actually having an attack versus how many are not, I don't know, because I know nothing about their medical history. And there are crisis actors that are laid up in the hospitals that are like our Maxine, okay? I call them hospital Airbnbs, okay? The Airbnb crisis actors. The home, if anything, that's how they use the homeless. They just simply filled up beds in hospitals with the homeless, raw material to use. So crisis actors are on both sides. So this guy, what can I tell you? He's a kook, he's a whack, he's a crackpot. His mind, I'm serious when I say this. It's a well-known fact of psychology. Once your mind has been hacked, okay? Once you've been indoctrinated, you're the type that just simply is. There's the real reason behind why the military took such a hard line on tattoos for so long. I know they've recently eased up on their restrictions, but basically the gang tattooing, it meant that their brains are no longer virgin. Gangs, they're a cult where you're indoctrinated in, you know. The military are cults where you're indoctrinated in. And if you've already been indoctrinated, then the damage is kind of done, okay? This man's already been made the victim of a cult. And this is why I am not surprised why which side, you know, that's all like I said, as I'm listening to him rattle off everything, dude, they have you pictured next to a fear porn meter. Fear. Okay, I can't even give an honest comment. Okay, I can't even voice my opinion without it being deleted. And yet here you are talking about control and this and fear, authoritarian. It's why Boris started to squirm in his chair. He didn't know if you were going to turn control opposition on him. Is he going to have to start getting aggressive with you? A hostile witness, so to speak, you know? All right, guys, that's it for now. What's my time here? All right, 30 minutes. I just want to throw something together for you. I'll link this down below. It's a hoot and a holler. But yeah, COVID cult. So the COVID cult wants people to believe that the independent journalists, that we're cults because we encourage people to think for themselves. I've never heard that as a cult. We don't force you what to say. We want everybody to have their free speech, and believe me, the wackos on BitChute. You know, like I say, the good and the bad with free speech. So, but yes. Our side of the argument advocates for free speech. In other words, it's kind of like he's kind of like what was it, the Ron DeSantis campaign ad that's been going around that was supposed to be maligning Ron DeSantis, and in fact it like bolsters him. He's supposed to be maligning us independent journalists, but by pointing out what a cult is, you are literally showing how corporate media is the cult leader, making you worship at the altar of the altar of COVID. It's been a while since we've seen it, but I figured I'd throw it up there again. I mean, I am telling you, can you, you know, naive people who have formed a cult-like following for the media and will do virtually anything they say regarding the coronavirus. Yeah, dude, you are clearly in a cult. The Branch Covidians. All right, guys, that's it. Have a good night. Keep fighting the good fight, and never give up, never back down. I got some news for you guys coming regarding my health care and how the fake pandemic is, really blocking access to health care. So we're going to talk some more about that in our next episode, hopefully. All right, stay strong, stay true. Total Control 871.